The whispers in the snow 2 years ago, something happened to me that I've never been able to forget. I've never shared this story before, but it's been haunting me ever since. Maybe telling it will help me move on, or at least make sense of it. It was late December, just a few days after Christmas. My friend Ethan and I were driving to my family's old cabin in the mountains to spend a quiet weekend. The roads were covered in snow, and the air was bitterly cold. The GPS had taken us off the main highway and onto a narrow, winding road surrounded by thick forest. The headlights barely lit the way ahead, and the silence was unsettling. No cars, no people, just the crunch of snow beneath the tires and the occasional howl of the wind. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Ethan asked, gripping the steering wheel. "That's what the GPS says," I replied, though I didn't feel confident. Something about this road felt wrong. We drove in silence for a while until Ethan suddenly slammed on the brakes. The car skidded to a stop, and I lurched forward, my heart pounding. "What the hell?" I said, looking at Ethan. He pointed ahead, his face pale. "Do you see that?" Standing in the middle of the road was a woman. She was wearing a long, white dress that looked like it belonged to another century, and her hair hung over her face, hiding her features. "Who the hell would be out here in this weather?" Ethan whispered. I didn't answer. Something about her presence made my skin crawl. "Let's turn around. Now." But Ethan shook his head. "What if she's hurt? We can't just leave her here." Before I could stop him, he grabbed the flashlight from the back seat and stepped out of the car. "Ethan, don't," I hissed, but he didn't listen. He approached the woman slowly, calling out, "Hey, are you okay?" The woman didn't respond. She just stood there, motionless. Ethan moved closer, the beam of his flashlight trembling slightly in his hand. And then, she lifted her head. I'll never forget what I saw. Her eyes, or rather, the empty sockets where her eyes should have been, were nothing but dark, hollow voids. Her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, as if frozen mid-scream, but no sound came out. "Ethan, get back in the car," I yelled. He stumbled backward, dropping the flashlight, and bolted back to the car. Slamming the door shut, he started the engine, but the car wouldn't move. The tires spun uselessly in the snow. Come on," Ethan muttered, slamming his hand against the steering wheel. I glanced out the window and felt my stomach drop. The woman was walking toward us, but her feet didn't touch the ground. She floated, her white dress trailing behind her like smoke. And then I heard it, a whisper. "You can't escape." The voice wasn't outside. It was inside the car. "Ethan, we need to run," I shouted, my voice trembling. Ethan nodded, and we both flung our doors open and bolted into the forest. The snow was deep, and every step felt like dragging my legs through quicksand. The whispers followed us, growing louder, more insistent. Shadows moved between the trees, tall, dark figures that seemed to glide rather than walk. We ran until we saw it, a small, crumbling cabin, half buried in snow. "In there!" I yelled, pulling Ethan toward it. The door creaked as we shoved it open and slammed it shut behind us. The inside was dark and freezing, with broken furniture scattered around. It looked like no one had been there in decades. "This place isn't safe," Ethan said, his voice shaking. The whispers grew louder, echoing around us. The cabin felt like it was closing in, the air growing colder by the second. Then, the door rattled violently, as if something, or someone, was trying to get in. Ethan backed into a corner, clutching his knees. I grabbed a broken chair leg, my only pathetic attempt at a weapon. The door burst open, and the woman stood there, her hollow eyes fixed on us. Behind her, the dark figures loomed, filling the doorway. "David, we need to go," Ethan yelled, pointing to a broken window. Without thinking, I helped him climb out. As I started to follow, I glanced back one last time, and froze. One of the figures stepped into the cabin. It was massive, its limbs unnaturally long, its head almost scraping the ceiling. It moved slowly, deliberately, like it knew we couldn't escape. "David!" Ethan's voice snapped me out of my trance. I climbed through the window and hit the snow hard. Ethan grabbed my arm, and we ran without looking back. Eventually, we found ourselves back on the road, though I couldn't tell you how we got there. Ethan's car was gone. We flagged down a passing truck and got a ride back to town, but we never told anyone what happened. To this day, I can't explain what we saw that night. But sometimes, on cold, silent nights, I hear the whispers again. You can't escape.